person can manage their other cost, which is their core cost, which is 90% of the cost that we're talking about, which is execution, development in this case, marketing, and other things. So, how do people budget around this?
So that's a very good question to start with, and also can be a very difficult question to answer, because a lot of different people will have different thoughts on this, and there are different ways of doing it as well. But as you very correctly said, that the 90-10 principle is very right. There should always be 10% of your budgets or 10% of your efforts going towards R&D, and not more, for obvious reasons, because R&D is very highly dependent on a breakthrough, which might or might not happen. So the uncertainty around that is very high. Hence, 10% would be the right amount of effort or money to put against that. When we talk about the remaining 90%, I think budgeting and having a very clear handle on your forecast is a very important thing. And when I say forecast, it means the money you are spending on actually doing the activities, the money you're making out of it, which is your margins or whatever, and say for example the sales you have lined up. So because there are a lot of different things that will come into play. If we take any example of a product that is oriented towards sales, you make something and you sell it, and the sales of it is going to make you money. So you have a very good product, you have a good profit margin on it, but there are no sales, right? So all these things come into the picture when you're forecasting everything. Let it be, you need to have. So as I was saying, that forecasting your own resources and your sales and everything is very important. So if we talk about forecasting your own resources, for example, and when you say your own resources is the people you are, people that are spending time for you to build your product or build your software or whatever it is. So if you have a certain amount of people, say you have 10 people in your organization, and all 10 of them are going to work, say, 7 hours a day, and they work for 5 days a week, and that will give you a certain value. Say that is the amount of man hours you actually have that you can spend. And now you need to work out how many man hours do you need to actually deliver the product, and what is the time you have available, and what is the money you'll be putting into it. So because the amount of time that your employees or your team members spend on building that is going to be your money getting spent to pay their wages and everything. And if we take an example, for example, you have 1000 hours that are available in a week, and you have work that needs to be done which is worth 1000 hours, and you have money that can pay for those 1000 hours. So this is a perfect scenario that you have the people, you have the money, and you have the work, and those three things can happen, and your product gets built. But the problem arises when you have the people, you have the work, but you don't have the funds to keep it rolling. Or in some cases, you have the funds, you have the people, but you don't have the work. There's nothing left to be done. And in all these cases, you are set for failure, because you'll either run out of work and you won't be producing anything, or in some cases you have the work but you don't have the funds to keep it going. So in all these cases, as I said, you're set towards failure, and it is very important to have these three things work in harmony for you. So budgeting and forecasting, that is very, very important.
Do you know that I read a statistics which said that out of the total failures that are happening in an entrepreneurship journey, 30% are only because of a bad financial budgeting and all that.
Yeah.
And I really like your approach of, making a, man hour kitty, and you know that you have this much amount of money. Say, for example, you have like 20 lakh rupees, and that is what your budget is. And then in that budget, you have taken into account everybody's wages, and then back calculated how many hours do you have in hand. So your 20 lakh rupees corresponds to, say, 1000 hours. And now that many hours are going to correspond to how much progress can you make in your product development, marketing, and success.
Yes.
And then you'll be able to very easily forecast that okay, this product success journey is going to take 700 hours, then I have 300 hours worth of money left in my bank account.
Absolutely.
That's cool. But if my product success is going to take 2000 hours and I have only 1000 hours worth of money in my pocket, then I need to raise funds.
Yes.
Or I need to take a loan, or I need to go for a government grant, or I need to do something around it, or I need to, do whatever that it takes to get the money to fuel my rest of the 1000 hours. So thinking of money as your time as well as time as your money is the approach that you have that you just gave right now is absolutely mind blowing for me. And there are a lot of people who don't know this calculation. How do you convert money into time and time into money? So this is I think great approach that is going to benefit a lot of people, I feel, in their entrepreneurship journey to forecast. And talking about forecast, do you know Tesla is great at forecasting, and I really like the way they forecasted things. I think 2016, Elon said that they are going to make, I think, 500,000 cars in 2018. So 2 years ke baad mein, they forecasted that they are going to make 500,000 cars, which they achieved.
Yes.
And 2017 mein they not predicted, that they are going to make 1 million cars in 2020 year, okay, which they did. And the forecasting that they did was purely based on the data that they were getting. It was not an intuition. It was not a very high-willed and motivated effort and calculation that they did. It was purely based on the numbers that they were having and the way they managed the whole project. And I really like the way they forecasted. People actually made fun of them. The whole story. Twitter and everybody was blowing off. Oh, he's just being too optimistic about it. But they did it. And I really like the way the forecasting that they did. Okay, so forecasting is something that we touched upon. I want to also understand your thoughts on where all data can be used from your company to fuel your financial decisions.
Yes. So, as you said, and a very great example, the example from Tesla is a very good one in this scenario. And when we talk about using your own data to actually say forecast how things are coming up, because and you already mentioned as well that what the forecasts that were done by Tesla were purely based on data and not a motivational thing that yes, this is what we will achieve in a certain year. And a lot of time that happens, right? Entrepreneurs would want to say by 2020 I want to acquire 2,000 customers, right? But if it's not backed by data, it's not possible. And that is the importance of data, basically. If you are making certain not predictions but forecasts, trying to map out where you're going to be in a certain year or a certain month, you need to see what has happened in the past. How have the things changed? What is new? What did not work? What worked? It's like we can take an example. I don't know if it's a good or a bad example, but like a baby that grows up. You cannot expect a 1-year-old to do a certain task, but you can expect a 10-year-old to do the same task, right? And in the same way, that growth for the baby has come over those 10 years. And similarly for a company, when the company starts and then the organization of the company is growing, a lot of things are happening. And if you're keeping a track of how everything went in terms of, say, your team's growth, your team's knowledge growth, your growth in your processes, growth in your, say, value of your product, whatever, and taking all of that into account, using that data to see, okay, if all of these things were happening in a certain way, today we are here. If this keeps going in the same way, in a year's time, we would be here. And in 2 years' time, we could be here. And in order to achieve something higher than that, we might have to change something in our current processes and the way we are doing things. Let it be profitability, let it be the value of your product, whatever the cost of your product. You might need to decrease your cost for certain things, and a lot of that. But everything at the end of the day needs to be backed by previous data. It should not be on intuition. It should not be on gut feel. It should not be on your motivation to do something.
So I feel that just right now I had that click is the difference between prediction and forecasting is data.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.